Affordable housing isn't just a McPherson story, it's a Kansas story. From McPherson County to communities across the state, safe, stable homes are essential for thriving families. At the McPherson Housing Coalition, we're developing emergency shelters like the Oak Harbor Cottages and building permanent supportive homes through projects such as Sutherland Estates, creating housing that includes wraparound care and services. If you believe every Kansan deserves a place to call home, your support matters, whether you're in McPherson or miles away. Learn how you can help listeners and neighbors across Kansas by visiting McPhersonHousingCoalition.org.
Welcome to Housing for Good, a podcast dedicated to housing topics and issues affecting our communities in McPherson County and beyond. With years of experience and expertise, hosts Chris Goodson and Carolyn Moore discuss housing challenges and opportunities with other experts from a variety of housing fields.
Welcome back to Housing for Good, the podcast where we dig into the challenges and solutions shaping housing across the country. I'm your host, Chris Goodson. Today, we're taking the conversation to the national level with a very special guest, Samantha Wood, from the National Alliance to End Homelessness. The Alliance has been a leading voice in pushing for smarter policies, better data, and proven solutions to address homelessness in America. Samantha is here to share what the Alliance is doing right now, the challenges we're all facing, and most importantly, where we can find hope and take action. Samantha, welcome to Housing for Good. We're so glad you're here. I'd just like you to introduce yourself a little bit and give your position, maybe what you do a little bit at the Alliance.
Yeah, I know. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. I am Samantha Wood. I'm the senior field organizer at the National Alliance to End Homelessness. We are based in Washington, D.C. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we work to find solutions to end homelessness across the country. And we do this in multiple ways. We do this through research. We have an amazing research team. We also have an amazing technical assistance training team that goes on the ground and helps communities kind of figure out how to enhance their programs and coordinate entry systems. We also have an events team that coordinates our 2 conferences a year. And then I'm part of our policy team, and we work on legislation and advocacy to engage with lawmakers to get, state, local, and federal level of addressing homelessness through policy and advocacy. So that's kind of what we do in a nutshell. I work remote. I'm based in Charlottesville, Virginia. And prior to working at the Alliance, I was in direct service for all my career. So I worked at a place called The Haven, which is a day shelter in Charlottesville, Virginia, and they also provide wraparound housing and prevention program services, and I was a case manager there for wraparound housing. So I have direct service experience prior to
that's awesome.
Being in advocacy. So I'm kind of new to the advocacy policy world, but it's been cool, the transition.
It's really cool that you have that ground experience. Boots on the ground is what we love to call it, so that you understand what somebody's going through, and then you can take it to legislators and really have a clear picture of what you're talking about. That I absolutely love that you were able to start at that level and then move forward. Our case managers, they're really the key to a lot of what we do, in my opinion. They're the ones doing the hard work, the one-on-one. We have a real heart for our case managers here at McPherson Housing Coalition and make sure that they have the resources that they need to be able to, because it's mentally exhausting sometimes. And you're like, I can't believe this person's dealing with all of these things. It's hard to even hear what they're going through, let alone trying to figure out how to help them get through it. So I applaud you for that. So let's start with the big picture. What are the main initiatives or programs that your organization does? The big ones, some of them. You talked a little bit about them, but what are some of the big things that you're doing right now?
Yeah, so as far as our policy side of things, right now we are focused on appropriations, congressional appropriations, particularly HUD appropriations. We work very closely with those Hill offices on both the House and Senate side, to be able to try to influence what we can as far as what the budget's going to look like for homeless assistance grants. And homeless assistance grants include programs like wraparound housing, permanent supportive housing, street outreach, which is also important, emergency shelters, prevention. So a lot of the programs that address homelessness in communities, Congress has to appropriate those funds, and then it trickles down to the state and then to the locality. So we spend a lot of our time and effort engaging with lawmakers who have influence over federal funding and spending. Because at the end of the day, that will determine how much money localities have, including yours, in McPherson.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So
yeah.
So like the emergency solutions grant, that's one that we use a lot, is our emergency.
Yes.
And a lot of the things that you were talking about are wrapped in that particular grant, as that emergency solutions grant. So we appreciate the work that you're doing there, because we use that every single year but we get an appropriations for that, and we're able to use that to keep the Oak Harbor cottages going, to pay our case managers. We also have Community Services Block Grant Fund. Is that something that is that part of the federal process, or is that more local? I don't always know about.
It comes from the federal.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. But states kind of decide how it's used.
Yeah,
yes.
that's another program that we have. So we appreciate all that policy work that you're doing on the national level, because you're affecting every single one of the providers across the nation so that we can provide the services. I don't think people realize that all these grants are necessary for us to be able to continue to work and to grow and to be able to provide the services that our families. I say families because we consider everybody a family, whether it's a senior or two people or five people or whatever. So that's just incredible that you're doing that. So what do you see?
No, thank you.
Yeah. So what do you see as the biggest challenge currently facing efforts to end homelessness? What do you think that is?
I think there's multiple challenges. I think the first is public perception of the situation. I think there are a lot of misconceptions of who is homeless. There's a lot of stigma. I think there's assumptions that people who are homeless are mentally ill, or they're drug addicted, or they're just lazy and don't want to work, or they want to be homeless. When really, it's because of our housing crisis across our country. People just can't afford to live in the communities maybe in which they grew up in. I know when I worked in direct service, I had to have roommates. Like, I struggled to pay my rent. Charlottesville is a university town, UVA, so there's a lot of high rent. Most of the units that are available are usually for students, and so teachers struggle here. Police officers have to live 30, 40 minutes away because they can't afford to live in the town in which they work. So it's like a lot of different income brackets, especially, 0 to 30% area median income. Those are the folks that really struggle, and they can't afford the rent. These are folks that work 2 jobs. They're not lazy. I had a lot of clients who were unhoused and were working, and they still couldn't afford rent. So it's not a matter of, a personality flaw. It's really policy that causes homelessness. And I think that's what people need to understand, including politicians on any level, local, state, and federal. I know there's struggles on all of those. I know mayors feel a lot of pressure because there's folks hanging out, maybe in a downtown area, and, the business folks complain. And really the only solution is to house folks. But unfortunately, the stigma has led to broader efforts to criminalize. We see the Trump executive order, all the awfulness that's going on in D.C. That's after the grants pass decision last year, that pretty much said, doesn't matter if there isn't a housing option for someone, you can put them in jail. A lot of communities have, increased their ordinances, and some states like Tennessee have even, made it a federal crime to be homeless. So I think that goes hand in hand, the perception of homelessness, and then what we're seeing is a huge uptick in criminalization, which we're also tracking and watching. And our partners at the National Homelessness Law Center have really helped us try to figure out ways to combat those awful laws. But I think those are the two main things, is public perception, and then what leads to that, which is, criminalization and putting people away. And then when they get out, that's another barrier to housing, because now they have a charge on the record. And for a lot of folks, they had a clean record. And so, being criminalized for existing, right, is just awful. And the real solution is putting folks in the housing. So we need to build more affordable housing, but I know that takes a while. But there are, interim strategies. If you do need to have some kind of like encampment in your community, make sure there's supportive services there. Make sure there's ways for people to access resources in a dignified manner. And it's not ideal, but something, in between being able to get housing. And even I know when we had funding, it was hard to find units because the rent is higher than what the federal, programs will allow you to spend, the fair market rate. So it was always a negotiation of seeing, if landlords would be willing to decrease the rent so that, folks could get a house. So it's multiple things, but really it's the stigma, I think, that is the underlying issue that impacts the policy that we have in our country and in localities.
And I want to say that a lot of people out there think this is just a big city problem. It's everywhere. I mean, we live in a community of 14,000 people. Our county is 28, 30,000. I don't even know. And we have the Oak Harbor Cottages, where we have 10 units for families that are homeless. They're always full. And these are people getting out of the service. We have somebody, these are seniors, these are families, these are all working people that are struggling. So don't think just because you're living in a small town that this is not impacting you. You just might not see it. So this really is impacting everybody. I bet every single community across the country, unless maybe there's 100 people in your community or something, this is affecting them. And that's what people need to understand. It's not just the big cities. I think it's just worse in the bigger cities because you have more people living there, obviously. But it is a problem nationwide. And it sounds like what you were talking about, it just compounds itself. So they have a criminal record. Now they can't I don't think you can have a HUD, a Section 8 or a housing choice voucher if you have some type of a record. I know there's some rules there that make it difficult. And then you try to find a place to rent and you can't afford it, because it's $500 to $1,000 higher than the medium, whatever it is, housing amount. And it's just unbelievable. It's like, how do we get out of this? I mean, we just build, or, I mean, what do we do?
Yeah.
It's overwhelming sometimes. And our town is smaller, so I feel like the population we're dealing with is so much more manageable. If I had an encampment of 500 people or 100 people, how do you even go about working with that? That's crazy. Thinking about that, right?
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
You can. And here in Virginia, what makes it harder, and I don't know if other states have this law, but if you're caught urinating in public and you're charged, that's considered a sex offense in Virginia. So I had folks on my caseload who had a sex offense who had to register because they had to pee in public because they didn't have. You don't have a bathroom, right?
Right.
So people see that and they think, oh, you're a sex offender. Oh, my goodness. And so that's a huge barrier to housing. You can't get any housing, usually, if you're a sex offender. Even our local emergency shelter, they don't accept sex offenders. So that was, that's an example of
that. And so you continue
really harming someone.
Yeah, you continue to cut off every avenue that somebody has. What choice do they have but go to an encampment? I mean, what other choices do you have unless you have a family member? Right. I think a lot of our people have lost contact with those family members. There's maybe not a great relationship there. Maybe it's not safe. I mean, I can't answer exactly why people are going through that, but it's just continuing to cut off any avenue for them to try to figure out how to get housed. Wow. It's overwhelming just to think about it. So, can you think of any type of powerful success stories that maybe that you've been a part of that would really show how this Housing First is working and how helping families move past homelessness has really been a powerful story?
Yeah. I have a story, but I also want to note that Oklahoma City is a good example of kind of how they're addressing encampments. So they're working with, local homeless response agencies and a consultant. And what they've been doing is they've been going to every encampment and they house everyone and then they close that encampment. They don't close the encampment till they know everyone is housed.
Wow.
So that's how they're doing it. So they have a program right now that they're working on. And, the goal is to, of course, close all the encampments, but they will not close the encampments until they know everyone is housed first.
So are they building housing? How are they doing that? Do you know how they're doing that?
It's partnership with local landlords, honestly. Yeah, and creative solutions like shared housing is a huge thing. Putting, maybe 3 or 4 individuals in one place, negotiating that with landlords. I know it's how we did. That's how we were able to house a lot of our clients was shared housing. So yeah, creative solutions like that. They are building some housing, but really it's the relationships with landlords that's really doing it and negotiating things like that, situations like that.
So I'm from Bakersfield, California. I don't know if you know much about Bakersfield, but I think they did something or doing something similar and have been doing that for quite a while, maybe the last 5 years or so. I remember when they started that program, because I grew up there, I follow them very closely, and I'm like, good job. It's like, yay. Yeah. But I mean, so that sounds like a solution that if other cities would adopt, like Oklahoma City, that could really have an impact on our homelessness. If they could do that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If they could, I know bigger cities, probably LA, that's that's a lot tougher, but the more medium level, cities and smaller could do it. Like I have so many stories of clients who've been successful, and there's one that always sticks out in my mind. So I had a client on my caseload, and he was always in and out of the hospital, like always, before he was housed. Like he was one of probably the top 10 utilizers of UVA's emergency room, in and out all the time. And then he got enrolled into rapid housing. It took some time to get him housed because he had a criminal record, but we found a landlord, who had a shared housing situation. So he had a room and a private bathroom on his own. And, within 6 months of being housed, he went from going to the ER all the time to, maybe going, a couple times a week. And then eventually over time, maybe like once in a while. And that was because he was housed, because he was able to find, a medical home. He was able to get connected to other resources. And that was through, case management and supportive services. And we had other community partners, social services. We had a bunch of people involved, street outreach. But together, we came together with wraparound services, and, the individual was able to stabilize medically. And that, of course, is cost effective for your community if folks aren't going to the ER all the time. But it's also, of course, beneficial to the individual because they're housed and they're able to, keep track of their health more. So, yeah, and they were able to, get a job. There were a bunch of things they were able to do because of housing. Had he not been housed, I don't think he would be alive today, honestly.
Oh, wow.
And that counts for so many folks that I see who are still housed. I know that if they were on the street, this was like 10 years ago. I know if they were still on the street, most of them would not be here. And I had clients ranging in age from 18 to 80. I mean, it was veterans. I mean, it was families. It was fleeing domestic violence. It was, a lot of people had multiple situations, folks that they were in a car accident, just one thing led them to experiencing homelessness. And every single person who ever walked through my door, every single one of them said, I never thought in my life that I'd ever become homeless. And some even said, I feel bad because I was that person that ignored that person who was begging. And now I'm that person who's begging. And so it was kind of it was a humbling experience for them. And they're like, if I could tell anyone that they can become homeless, it's true. Like I had a big house, I had 5 cars, I had a pool, I had a boat, I had all these things. And because I fell off a roof, I am now, sitting in your office. And so, and I looked down on the people that I am now. And so it was, conversations like that. And being in the field really humbled me. And, I was like, yeah, I know I'm only so many paychecks away from becoming homeless. And really, the only difference between our friends who are unhoused and us is that we have a roof over our head and they don't.
Yes.
And, any event, any one of us can become homeless. And I'd hope that if I did, someone would care for me like I cared for my clients. And that's why, it's hard for me to understand why someone would look down on someone who is unhoused, because they're no different than any one of us, honestly.
Wow, that's very powerful. And I 100% agree with everything that you're saying, thinking about these families and what they're struggling, and every single one of us could be a paycheck away. And that's what we said. Health issues can really, I have a son with Crohn's, and his medical bills were $8,000 every 6 to 8 weeks. Fortunately, he's got a family with means, and we helped take care of that. I mean, he was fine. But I will tell you, with him, he's very successful, but he also sees people. He went to New York City with some friends, and he met a man who was not housed and said, hey, if you'll help me do blah, 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 I'll take you out to eat. So all of his friends, he showed them around New York. They took him to a restaurant, sat down with him, and ate with him. And that's how my kids are, because the work that we do has really showed them. My older son has the same thing. My kids are all very aware of people who are struggling. My grandson works in a food bank, has learned how to do that. So I think what's really important to our listeners, you have to see people Don't look away. These are real people who had, at one point, they might have been exactly where you are. And because of something going on now, they're struggling and they're really finding it difficult to try to get themselves out of the situation that they're in, that sometimes falling off a roof was not that person's fault. It's something that happened. So you have to see people, see them. These are real people. So
I love that. I love that. Yeah. You have to get to know people.
Yes.
Like we are afraid of the unknown. But if you get to know someone and you become friends with them, like I think Shirley MacLaine, the famous actress, says something about, it's hard to make friends when you're scared of people.
Yes.
And so I love that your children, aren't scared of folks who are.
Yeah, they're not. Sometimes they
stigmatized.
They scare me a little bit. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
No, Mom, I'm careful, I promise. But I wanted that person, we made a deal. He would show me around and then I would provide a meal for him. And that's exactly what they did. Him and his best friend, that's what they did. I was so shocked. But, kids learn by example. Right. And so they see this work that we do and they've been in it. I mean, my kids are older, not that old, but I mean, my one son, my two younger sons, they've seen it all their lives that we've worked and tried to help people who are struggling and they don't know any better. I guess they don't know any better. Right. So and my grandkids, the same thing. They're all involved in things. They help people. They see. I mean,
that's awesome.
So we really try hard as a family. So for our listeners who care about this issue and want to make a difference, what opportunities are there for individuals to get involved or volunteer when it comes to this issue or your organization?
That's a good question. On the local level, I would say, if you have a place like an emergency shelter or a housing program like you offer in McPherson, see if there's any, volunteer opportunities. See, if folks who are housed, if you have a car, maybe you can help them with errands. That was always one thing when I was a case manager. I couldn't be everywhere all at once. And so, relying on volunteers to help folks, even like help them set up a new place. Like if you have furniture, donate. Because a lot of times, you put someone in a home, but they don't have furniture. We had a program that helped pay for that, but not every community has that. Mm-hmm. So there are multiple ways, you can always donate to your local organizations, but, time is so invaluable, offer to volunteer for a shift in the day shelter or, like any number of things related to more of like the direct service volunteering. But also I encourage people to do things like vote and run for office locally, get on your city council so you can influence the policies, such as being able to combat an ordinance that might be harmful. And on the, federal level, you can plug into our advocacy work. We put out action alerts and other things related to kind of what we're doing. And you can find that information on our website, or folks can reach out to me directly if they want to get more plugged into what's going on the federal landscape. But it takes all level of government to really address this issue. And it takes people's willingness to want to get involved and volunteer their time any way they can. Because that will break down the barrier of kind of like the us versus them mentality or the other. And, once you spend time with folks who are unhoused, you realize, oh, yeah, they're just like me. Like, why would I think any different? And so that's why we encourage people to reach out to their members of Congress or their state or local politicians and have them come for a site visit, see what you do, see the great work you're doing.
Yeah.
Have them meet the folks that you're serving and have them hear their story of how they became homeless, so they understand that the stigma out there is not real. The stereotypes are not true. And so that's what I encourage folks to do is engage with your lawmakers, build those relationships like you have and other people across the country, because they may come to you for advice on legislation that could be a huge influence in how we address homelessness or how we fund homelessness. You could be part of that movement, which is exciting to know that you influenced, local, state, or federal legislation that helped end homelessness. You have that power as a constituent. Constituents have a lot of power. Us as constituents, these lawmakers, we're their boss. Remember that. So don't hesitate to call or visit them. You can step into Capitol Hill building anytime. It's public. It's a public building. Just walk in. It's your right.
I love that.
Our taxes pay for that.
Yeah,
so.
I really. It sounds like homelessness is solvable It's not as it's not as big and scary as everybody makes it out to be, but it just is simple steps, things that we all need to do. See people, get involved, volunteer, connect, all those things. It's not that difficult. It's like any other problem. Together, we really can end this crisis. I really believe that homelessness can end and that we all can get to net zero in homelessness across this nation. And people like you are the ones who are making it happen. And we appreciate that so much. And keep doing the good work. Keep doing it, really.
Thank you. Well, we honestly can't do it without you on the ground.
Oh, thank you.
Doing the hard work.
Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah, it's going to take everyone.
It takes everybody. It really does.
And we can do it.
Yeah.
We really can do it. That's, there's hope through advocacy. There's hope through a lot of different avenues. We just have to keep on building those relationships amongst ourselves and politicians. Yeah, we can. Yeah, homelessness is definitely solvable. And my hope is that I'm working myself out of a job, that, there is no need for the National Alliance to End Homelessness. In 10 years. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
That would be awesome. I know. I feel the same way. Yeah. I've been in this for 17 years, and it's like, and I just can't pull away. I can't do it. There's too much work to be done. Yeah. It's too important. It matters to everybody. And so anyways, but thank you so much, Samantha, for being on Housing for Good. We really appreciate all your insights. We really love what your organization is doing. And if anybody wants more information, quickly tell me how they get a hold of you or your website or whatever that is.
Yes. So you can contact me directly at swood@naah.org. And then our website is, you can just Google National Alliance to End Homelessness and you'll find us. But I'm happy to talk to anyone who wants to learn more about what we're doing and how maybe you want to get plugged in more into policy in your community. And I love meeting people all across the country, and I really appreciate you inviting me today.
Yes, this has been incredible.
I think it's awesome, all that you're doing.
Thank you.
In Kansas and McPherson.
Yeah, thank you. It's been awesome. We love it too, but we really appreciate you. So this has been another episode of Housing for Good. I'm Chris Goodson. Thanks for listening, and let's keep working together to make sure everyone has a safe, stable place to call home. If you would be interested or know someone who would be interested in being on Housing for Good, drop us a line. Please leave a review at housingforgood@mcphersonhc.org. Have a great day.